Hey everyone. If you're looking for a story that will make you question everything you thought you knew about success and betrayal, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and let us know in the comments below where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always exciting to see who's joining us from around the world. The Shattered Kingdom. The rooftop shimmered with a golden light. Violinists played under a silk canopy. In the center, Cole Radford, the billionaire hotel magnate, his reputation built on charm and ruthless expansion, raised a champagne flute. His graying hair caught the amber glow of the sunset, and a quiet hush fell over the elite. "To new beginnings," he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, "and to the kind of love that makes us brave enough to start again." The crowd cheered, glasses clinked, and by his side, Sierra Monroe, dazzling in her ivory gown, kissed his cheek. Cameras captured the moment as if history were being written. After all, she had been his wife's best friend, and now she was his future wife. On the surface, it was a tale of second chances, golden vows, and a man who refused to live in the past. But a past not buried can still breathe. Across the street, parked silently in the furthest corner of the valet circuit, a long black limousine idled. Inside, a woman sat motionless. Her name was Elise Radford. She hadn't moved in 20 minutes. Her eyes were fixed on the rooftop. She could see Cole raise Sierra's hand for the cameras. She remembered that hand. It used to hold hers in shared grief. When Sierra promised her, "I'll never let anything hurt you." In the back seat, 4 small children stirred in their sleep, tucked under soft, matching coats, their faces identical. 2 were curled against each other, the other 2 lulled by the hum of the engine. Elise reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Thick, expensive, cream-colored. The wedding invitation had arrived anonymously. A gift or a warning? She traced the embossed names with her finger. Cole Radford and Sierra Monroe. Inside, Cole had no idea. No idea that the past had parked just outside his spotlight. He laughed on cue. He posed with investors and celebrities. He kissed Sierra again, all perfectly timed for the PR team documenting the romance of the year. And yet, beneath his pristine facade, something stirred. A flicker, a shadow. Elise's voice whispered in his memory. "The truth doesn't stay buried." Cole just waited. A valet passed the limousine and paused to look inside. Elise turned her head slowly. The window lowered an inch. "I'm not here yet," she said, her tone like marble. "He'll know when I am." Then she rolled up the window and looked once more towards the rooftop. The gala was just beginning. "What do you think Elise plans to do at the wedding? What kind of secret do you think she's keeping? Share your theories in the comments." Sierra Monroe smiled for the cameras, as if she were born to be adored. Her hand clung to Cole's with practiced ease. Her white gown was a whisper of elegance against the gold-lit skyline. Everything about her screamed perfection, except the invisible tension knotted beneath her ribs. The night was impeccable. She was marrying a millionaire. And yet, she couldn't stop thinking about the woman who wasn't there. Elise. She and Elise had once shared everything. College nights, heartbreaks, even matching tattoos during a wild summer in Ibiza. Sierra had held Elise's hand during her wedding to Cole. She had stood behind her, dressed in lace and tears, when Elise lost her first child. She had promised to stay close, to protect her. Now she wore the ring Elise once wore, and the silence between them had stretched for 3 years. "Are you all right?" Cole asked, leaning in to brush his lips against her temple. His breath smelled faintly of champagne and ambition. "You're tense." "Just cold," she replied, with a smile that felt like glass. Cole nodded, and turned to greet another guest. Sierra's gaze drifted past him, toward the glittering sea below. She could almost feel Elise's presence in the wind, a ghost she couldn't name aloud. Earlier that day, Sierra had received a letter. No return address. Just 3 words in familiar handwriting. "You broke me." It was now at the bottom of her clutch, folded carefully next to her lipstick. She excused herself from the reception and stepped into the suite's dressing room, her heart pounding. Inside, she locked the door and pulled out the note again. No signature, no return address. But she knew. Elise's handwriting was seared into her memory. It had once penned birthday cards, late-night confessions. The vows Sierra had helped Elise write for her wedding to Cole. A sudden knock startled her. "Sierra!" Cole's voice from the other side. She tucked the letter back into her clutch. "Just a minute." She looked at herself in the mirror. Her reflection stared back with perfectly lined lips and eyes that had seen too much. This wasn't regret. It was dread. Because if Elise had written, it meant she wasn't done. And Sierra knew something else. Elise never warned twice. She opened the door, rejoined the party, and hooked her arm through Cole's. The cameras resumed their work. But now, her smile didn't reach her eyes either. Across town, in the silent limousine, Elise held her phone. On the screen, an unsent message with a single line. He should see what he left behind. Her thumb hovered over the send button. Not yet. The house was silent. Too silent for the argument that still echoed in Elise's chest. 3 years ago, they lived in a modern farmhouse outside Napa Valley. Vineyards curved around their land like promises. Elise had thought they were building a life, a family, something rooted. But that morning, Cole stood at the edge of the unfinished nursery, arms crossed, his voice cold. "I can't do this," he had said. Elise's hands trembled over the tiny onesie she was folding. "What do you mean? We planned this. You said—" "I said a lot of things," he cut her off. "But I didn't mean this. I didn't mean now." He looked at her as if she were speaking another language. He looked at her as if she were a stranger with expectations he couldn't meet. "I just need space," he added. "Space?" Her voice cracked. "I'm 6 months pregnant, Cole." He rubbed his jaw, refusing to look at her belly. "You'll be fine. You always are." That phrase shattered her. He left the same day. No slammed doors, no dramatic speeches. Just a silent departure, a packed travel bag, and a vague promise to fix things. What Elise didn't know was that he was already texting someone else. She found out 2 weeks later. A friend sent her a photo. Cole was at a fundraiser on the coast, wine glass in hand, arm around Sierra. Sierra, who had stopped calling her. Sierra, who had ignored her as soon as Elise started showing her pregnancy. Sierra, who now looked at her husband the way Elise used to. The betrayal felt surgical, precise, as if it had been planned. But Elise didn't scream, didn't chase him. She let the silence grow. She gave birth alone. 4 hours of labor. No name next to hers on the hospital forms. No flowers. No calls. Just the nurse whispering, "Quadruplets. That's rare. You're strong." Elise didn't feel strong. She felt buried. Still, she survived. She raised them. One bottle. One midnight cry at a time. She rebuilt a life from grief, memory, and resilience. And as her babies grew, she told them stories. Not of princes and castles, but of truth. Of a man who left, and a woman who didn't break. Back in the present, Elise sat in the limousine and looked at the invitation again. Her thumb traced Sierra's name, the one that used to sign her birthday cards. She wasn't here for revenge. She was here for truth, and to show Cole what space had become. 4 small, breathing truths he could never run from again. How do you think Sierra will react when she sees Elise and the quadruplets? What do you think is the full extent of Cole and Sierra's betrayal? Share your predictions. The uninvited truth. The Napa Valley villa buzzed with final preparations. Bouquets were double-checked. The string quartet rehearsed under hanging lights, and the wedding planner circulated like a polite tornado. But upstairs, behind a closed door, Sierra was alone in her dressing gown, staring at herself in the mirror. She hadn't slept. Her eyes told a story no concealer could hide. Cole had left the rehearsal dinner early, claiming a call from Tokyo investors had pulled him away. But she knew better. He was hiding something. Again. This time it wasn't subtle. His hands had trembled slightly while pouring champagne. His laugh had come half a second too late, and she'd caught him looking at a woman through the ballroom window. A woman he never mentioned. She wore a black veil, sitting in the back of a parked limousine. Sierra had seen her long enough to wonder. Now, silently brushing her hair, she finally opened the envelope she'd been too afraid to read last night. It was still in her clutch, the one she'd pretended not to notice at the gala. Inside, a single photo. Elise, sitting on a park bench, surrounded by 4 small children. A message scrawled on the back, in delicate handwriting. Still sleeping at night? Sierra's stomach churned. Elise had never been dramatic. She was surgically precise with emotion. When she found out, she did so in silence. And, with precision, a sharp rap on the door startled her. "Sierra!" Cole's voice. "Can I come in?" She hesitated. A second. She slipped the photo under her dresser drawer, composed herself, and opened the door. He was freshly showered, in silk pajamas, barefoot, but his eyes were dark, tired. He leaned in and kissed her forehead. "Are you all right?" he asked. "Just tired," she replied. A pause. "Sure?" Sierra's eyes met his. "And you?" He didn't answer. She stepped aside, letting him in. They lay down together in silence, back to back. The space between them colder than it should have been. And outside, parked just beyond the estate gates, Elise watched the lights go out. Her children slept in the back seat, curled up like puzzle pieces. She whispered, "Tomorrow, they will see you." And she meant all of them. The morning sun slowly rose over the Napa Valley wine estate, bathing the grand mansion in a soft amber light. Birds flew over the Texas roof as guests began to arrive in designer cars and pastel-colored gowns. A string quartet tuned beneath an ivy-covered arch. Champagne flowed from a marble fountain as if everything were exactly as it should be. Until the limousine appeared. It wasn't flashy, not the kind rented for weddings. Matte black, silent engine, tinted windows. It pulled up slowly in front of the main doors, just as the first round of guests was being ushered inside. The valet hesitated. The driver rolled down the window and handed him a folded note. "Not a guest. Deliver this inside." Inside the limousine, Elise waited in silence. The children had begun to stir, rubbing their eyes, blinking at the morning. All 4 were dressed in pale cream and navy, their tiny shoes freshly polished. She had braided the girls' hair the night before and smoothed the boys' little ties. Now they blinked at her, confused by their surroundings. "Mommy," the youngest girl whispered. Her voice rough with sleep, Elise turned, smoothing her daughter's hair. "Just a little longer, darling. It's almost time." Her voice didn't waver, but her hands, folded in her lap, trembled slightly. The valet handed the note to the wedding planner, who read it and blanched. She looked towards the imposing double doors where Sierra stood, radiant in her gown, ready to walk down the aisle. The planner cautiously approached. "Miss Monroe," she whispered. "There's something outside. A car. A woman. She says she's not here to ruin anything, just to be seen." Sierra's heart stopped. She turned slowly. Cole, adjusting his cufflinks across the room, didn't notice at first, until Sierra's voice reached him like a knife. "Elise is here." His head snapped up. Time stood still. Outside, Elise stepped out of the limousine. She wore no vengeance. She wore dignity. A soft navy blue dress, modest heels, no makeup save for a faint lip gloss. Behind her, the children followed, still sleepy, clutching stuffed animals. They stood together on the stone path just as the chapel bells began to chime. All heads turned. Elise lifted her chin and began to walk towards the open doors. And inside, Cole Radford's empire began to crack under the weight of 4 tiny shadows he had spent 3 years trying to forget. The chapel was frozen. All heads turned as Elise crossed the threshold, hand in hand with the children. The carpet beneath her shoes muffled their steps, but the silence she trailed behind her resonated louder than the organ pipes. Sierra stood at the altar, veil raised, bouquet trembling. Cole, already pale, didn't move. His jaw tightened. His hands flexed at his sides as if he were choosing between flight or denial. A guest whispered, "Is that them?" The children stared wide-eyed at the petals on the floor. One bent down to pick one up, handing it to his sister. "Elise," she met Sierra's eyes. Not with anger, but with something deeper, something older, worn. "I didn't come to stop anything," Elise said, her voice even. Everyone could hear her. "I came so they could see it, so he could see them." The child closest to her squeezed her hand tighter. Sierra slowly descended the steps into the aisle. She walked past Cole without looking at him. She stopped inches from Elise. She looked at the children. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 boys. 2 girls. The same eyes as Cole. The same crooked smile on the left. Sierra turned back to Cole. "Do you know them?" Her voice was sharp, but it broke on the last word. Cole didn't answer. She repeated it louder. "Do you know your own children?" The youngest girl pressed herself behind Elise's leg, frightened by the shouting. Elise knelt beside her and whispered something reassuring. The others just stared at Cole, blank-faced, as if they didn't understand who he was, but could feel what he wasn't. Cole swallowed. He tried to speak. Nothing came out. Guests stared. Phones were raised. Someone began to record. Sierra's voice dropped to a whisper. "You told me you weren't ready for children," she said. "You lied." Cole finally spoke. "You don't understand." "Then make me understand," Sierra snapped. A long silence followed. Elise stood again. She looked at Sierra, then at Cole. "I didn't ask for money," she said. "I didn't ask for a scene. I asked for a name. His name." She reached into her clutch and pulled out a folded envelope. "This is the paternity suit. The court date is set." She placed it gently on the front pew, turned to the children, and gestured. "Come, let's go." They obeyed. Silently. Obediently. Without complaint. And as they left, the air behind them collapsed. A vacuum of dignity no lie could fill. Sierra looked at Cole one last time, and in that moment her decision was made. The wedding never officially ended. There was no announcement, no orchestral cue, no explanation. Guests simply filtered out, confused and uneasy, their designer shoes clicking on the marble like slow applause for a spectacle that had broken the fourth wall. The bride had vanished into the bridal suite. The groom no longer looked like one. Cole sat alone on the altar bench, tie loose, collar unbuttoned, sweat beading under his immaculate suit. In front of him, the folded petition envelope Elise had left sat unopened, untouched, like poison. Outside, the limousine was already gone. Elise hadn't wasted any time. A quick turn of the key. 4 children buckled in again. Doors closed, the soft hum of the engine. No theatrics, no goodbye. A photographer tried to follow them. Nora, Elise's old friend, and Sierra's former bridesmaid, blocked them at the door. "No photos of the children," she said. "You had your drama. Leave the rest." Nora's presence had gone unnoticed all day. She hadn't been invited, but she knew Elise would come, and she knew why Sierra had never invited her to the wedding, because she had once been the glue between the 3 of them. Elise, Sierra, Cole. But glue can only hold what isn't broken. Upstairs, Sierra looked at herself in the gilded mirror, mascara smeared beneath her lashes. Her wedding gown now felt like a costume. She remembered trying it on and whispering, "I feel like someone new." Now she felt like someone had tricked her. A soft knock at the door. "Cole." She didn't speak. "I didn't expect you to show up," he said from the hallway. "I didn't expect any of this." Sierra stood, hands clinging to the edge of the dresser. "You didn't expect the truth?" A pause. "You said she was unstable, that she left you." "She did." She lied again. "She left you with 4 children." That silence lasted longer. Finally, Cole spoke. "It wasn't supposed to matter anymore. We were supposed to start fresh." Sierra turned towards the door, her voice low, decisive. "There's no fresh, not when you build on rot." She locked the door. Downstairs, Nora stood by the fountain, watching as everything burned from the inside. She pulled out her phone and dialed. A voice answered. "She's on her way back," Nora said. "And he's falling apart." "Good," the voice on the other end replied. Because Elise hadn't just come to be seen. She had come to finish something that had started long before the toast. What do you think will happen to Cole's empire now? Will Sierra find her own path to redemption, or will she be consumed by bitterness? Share your thoughts below. The Reckoning, the hotel's penthouse bar, was quiet at midday. No music, just the soft sunlight filtering through the tall windows and the slow clink of glasses being polished behind the bar. Sierra was sitting alone at a corner table, no makeup, hair still up from the day before. In front of her, an untouched champagne flute, a leftover from what should have been a celebration. Elise arrived 10 minutes late, not because she wanted to appear powerful, but because one of the children had a nosebleed in the car and she refused to enter stained. She walked in without makeup, without an entourage, and without hesitation. Just the quiet fire of a woman who had survived what no one saw. Sierra stood but didn't smile. Elise didn't expect her to. They sat. A long silence passed. Finally, Sierra spoke. "You knew he would never tell me." "I didn't come to tell you," Elise said. "I came for him to see them." "He didn't." Sierra looked down at the table. "He told me you cheated, that he caught you with someone else, that he was heartbroken." Elise let out a quiet laugh, more breath than sound. "He's always been the victim in his own stories." Another pause. Sierra hesitated. "Can I ask you something personal?" Elise nodded. "Why didn't you try to ruin him? You could have done it years ago." Elise met her eyes. "Because I thought maybe he'd seek them out on his own. Someday." She leaned in, her voice firm but not angry. "He never did." The weight of that truth hit harder than any slap. Sierra swallowed the knot in her throat. "I thought I stole him from you," she whispered. Elise tilted her head gently. "You didn't. He gave himself away." For a moment, they were just 2 women who had loved the same man and paid for it in different ways. Sierra reached into her clutch and pulled out her engagement ring. She slid it across the table. "Do me a favor," she said. Elise looked confused. "Give it to your daughter someday, so she'll know what she's worth and what she's not." Elise stared at it. "She doesn't need reminders of him." "No," Sierra said. "She needs reminders of you, of what you walked away from and what you faced." Elise said nothing, but for the first time in a long time, her eyes filled with tears. Sierra stood. She adjusted her coat and looked back once before leaving. "I'm sorry he made us think we were enemies," she said. Elise watched her disappear into the light beyond the door. "Not enemies. Not anymore. Just survivors." How do you think Cole will deal with his downfall? What does the future hold for Elise and her children? Share your predictions and rate this story from 0 to 10 in the comments below. The lasting legacy. The news broke at 7:14 a.m., not via a press conference nor a tabloid, but a viral leak. A grainy, time-stamped security video. Location: Wellness Center, San Diego. Date: 4 years ago. The footage was short, less than a minute, but it didn't need to be longer. It showed Cole Radford entering a private clinic in a tailored suit and sunglasses. He handed an envelope to the reception nurse. She opened it, eyes wide, and nodded. Then he turned and walked away. Not once did he glance down the hallway behind him, where Elise had just been wheeled into the delivery room. There was no audio, but the silence in the video said it all, and it spread like wildfire. News anchors scrambled. Social media accounts exploded. Radford reveal trended by noon. Every media outlet ran the same headline. Millionaire bribed clinic to erase records of his own children. Cole's PR team denied it. They called the footage misleading, lacking context. An invasion of privacy. But the damage was already done. Sierra didn't speak to the press. She didn't need to. Her silence became its own statement. The Radford Hotel's board of directors called an emergency session. Stock plummeted. Investors pulled out. By midnight, the empire Cole had spent 15 years building had begun to crack. Meanwhile, Elise sat on her living room floor in a modest rental across town, folding laundry next to 4 small children playing with toy dinosaurs. She didn't turn on the TV. But Nora was sitting on the sofa, laptop open, watching the media frenzy grow. "You could sue him," Nora said, not looking away from the screen. "You could own half of what he has by next month." "I don't want what he has," Elise said softly. "I just wanted what he took to come to light." Nora leaned back. "You're the most terrifying kind of woman you know." Elise smiled faintly. "No, I'm just the kind who remembers everything." Outside, the sun was setting. A soft breeze drifted through the open window. One of the children, Arden, brought her a drawing. It was crude, childlike, scrawled in crayon, but clear. 5 stick figures holding hands. One wore a crown. "Is that me?" she asked, pointing to the crowned figure. Arden nodded. "You're the queen." Nora watched from across the room, her eyes wet. In a world where men like Cole built glass towers, some women built kingdoms with crayons. Courage and silence. The kind of kingdom no scandal could ever destroy. The black limousine pulled away from the courthouse as silently as it had arrived. No interviews for the driver. No waves from the windows. Just the soft hum of tires rolling on rain-slicked pavement. Inside, Elise sat in the back with her children huddled around her, each buckled in, each clutching a stuffed toy handed out by Nora before their departure. The twins were asleep again. Arden and Mira looked out opposite windows, quiet in a way only children could be when chaos was adult-sized. There were no tears. There was no drama. Just the soft, heavy silence of a story concluded. Elise leaned back, resting her head on the seat, eyes half closed, not from exhaustion, but from release. This wasn't victory. This was relief. Outside, flashes popped as paparazzi jostled for one last shot. A lone reporter rapped on the window, calling her name, holding a microphone as if the right question could break her. She didn't respond. She had said it all without saying a word. Meanwhile, not far away, inside the penthouse office of his flagship hotel, Cole Radford watched everything on a muted screen. His tie was loose, his eyes sunken. Around him, assistants quietly packed boxes, pretending not to see the man crumbling at the center of a once perfect empire. On the screen, the limousine rounded a corner and disappeared from view. Cole stood. He walked to the window and looked out at the city he once owned. In the glass reflection, he looked older. Not just defeated, but exposed. He picked up a framed photo from the bookshelf, a photo of him and Sierra smiling on the yacht where he had proposed. He looked at it for a long time. Then he placed it face down. Inside the limousine, Elise opened her eyes. The sun had broken through the clouds. A sliver of golden light touched her hand, where it rested on Arden's knee. The driver, a quiet man who hadn't spoken since he picked them up, caught her eye. In the rearview mirror. "Where to now, ma'am?" he asked. She thought about it. Not a hotel, not a press conference, not a lawyer's office, just home, drive, she said softly, where they stop asking questions. The driver nodded. As the limousine curved along the coastal road, the skyline faded behind them. The world that once silenced her was now in the rearview mirror, and in its place, the sky, the waves, and the four small souls who would never again wonder who they were or who had tried to forget them. Elise looked out the window one last time. Not for him, but for the girl she once was. The girl who had been abandoned, with nothing but the truth. She whispered, barely audible, "We made it." And this time, no one, no man, no lie, no empire could take that from her. What an unforgettable story. If this tale of resilience and quiet strength resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring narratives. Your support helps us tell these powerful stories.